Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I believe it's episode 149, maybe. So we're close to a big step. This is going to be the semifinal World Cup episode. It's been a great World Cup so far. Thank you, everyone who's been following along. Everyone subscribing on pregame. I appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love it if you subscribe there as well. I'm getting a lot more views, a lot more likes, which I'm appreciating. And of course, everyone who rides and dies for me on Apple Podcasts, that seems to be where it's most popular. Really appreciate all of you for checking in there, giving 5-star reviews, making some comments, doing whatever you can. It'll get me up the potential leaderboard and maybe get me doing extra podcasts. Hopefully, if it's worth it for everyone out there. And basically, when I see likes, I think it's worth it. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description below to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So now that you have a bunch of extra money at BetOnline, you might as well use some of it. And I'm going to go through the two semifinal matches in as much detail as possible. It's Sunday night here, so we got a couple days till the matches come. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of rumors about lineups and other changes like that will be happening. But until that occurs, all we can do is speculate. And honestly, there weren't a lot of changes in starting lineups if they weren't enforced. So I imagine most games will probably stay the same. But I'll go through each of the matches, give a side, a total, lean, and then I'll come up with an ultimate best bet for the end of the show. So Argentina-Croatia is our first matchup. And I think one of the teams is very likely to be here based on a lot of the bets coming in pre-tournament. And that was Argentina. Because I think they dropped from like 12-1 to 6-1 to win the whole thing after a really good showing in the Copa America, where they knocked out Brazil, and then also their long unbeaten run, which then ended in the first opening match against Saudi Arabia, which was not what a lot of people expected. But Argentina are here, and not a lot of people were expecting Croatia to get past Brazil. But they are awesome. They did that, and you gotta love them, gotta respect them. Incredible that they've honestly got to this point with such a small nation. But they have a really good midfield, and that's what they're known to be. So I'll go through Croatia more specifically because they're the underdog here. They're a 3-quarter goal underdog right now. All the juice on Croatia, which has kind of been teeter-tottering around, but started as a very juiced 3 quarters. It's still pretty juiced, but less. Ultimately was minus 130 when I first saw it. Now minus 120. Over under is 2 with the juice heavily on the over. So kind of indicates we'll probably be seeing a 2.25. It would be my guess for a closing number, which is a little bit lower than I would have made it. But I think that's a response to how well Croatia have played in this tournament. Their defense has been great. And really what their defense is the threat of their midfield. Their ability to control the ball, but also I think they force their opponents to respect them a little more than you would expect for a team that's really devoid of any sort of striking talent up front. I'll get into the team here. So Croatia started the last matchup with Pasalic up front as a right wing next to Andre Kramaric as the striker position. Kramaric is the name that I think everyone knows. I guess besides the Modric and Perisic's and the midfielders, at least in the striking goal scoring positions. I think Croatia will probably stick with Kramaric, so he has not had a very good tournament. I feel like he's more of a second striker playing behind a really fast guy, and that doesn't really fit what Croatia have at their disposal. They did get a goal from Pekovic off the bench, though, in stoppage or in the extra time second half. So it's very possible that he gets added to this one and may start based on that form, and just Zlatko Dalic just hoping to try to score a goal because it's been so hard for Croatia. But I honestly think that their goal there was to really restrict Brazil. They did a great job of that. Obviously goalless until extra time, or the extra periods. Beyond, yes, I guess that is extra time. So stoppage time, everything, 90 minutes plus stoppage time was goalless. So the defense was great there. Didn't get that goal to the 117th minute, so it's possible that Pekovic does start here. But besides that, Brozovic did pick up a yellow card, but I heard Dejan Lovren after the match saying it was really important that they got through without any suspensions. So I assume that he would know how that works. So that tells me that Juranovic, Lovren, Gvardiol, and Borna Sosa will all be in there in that back line, which has been really what's gotten Croatia to this point in the tournament. Their offense is really created through that midfield with Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic, all really good players and have put in huge shifts. I wonder what their availability is going to look like as we get to the league play. But our focus is on the World Cup for right now, and I'm sure they'll be giving everything they can for their Hrvatska. Two advanced lines, we have Argentina minus 270, Croatia plus 220. It's, I mean, certainly possible to see that Croatia getting through here. We've seen them be so dominant in penalties. Livakovic, their goalkeeper, has been awesome. But ultimately, on the other side, the Argentinian keeper, Emiliano Martinez, has been so good and probably so foul languaged, or the words he uses are incredible. Argentina was very angry at the Dutch, it seemed, after eliminating them. But sticking with Croatia, so their strategy here, I think, is going to be the same. Basically the same blueprint we saw with Brazil. Try to restrict them as much as possible, but ultimately try to possess the ball, because that will give them opportunities to potentially run at or create against a limited Argentinian defense, because I think that is the weak point of Argentina. We'll get to that in a second. Weak point for Croatia, to me, is putting the ball in the net. Took a deflection to get by Allison, though Brazil were the best team in this tournament. So I don't know that I'm going to demerit Croatia for so much for scrapping in a goal, however they got one. But luckily they're not a favorite here, so they don't necessarily need to score. A goalless draw will go into extra time will win you a bet on that plus 3/4. But I'm kind of hoping this number climbs a little bit, because Croatia did close, I think, a 1.25 goal underdog to Brazil. And I think it was a fairly reasonable juice at that number anyway. I don't know that Argentina is a half a goal worse than Brazil, but I feel like this line is certainly reacting to the performance of Croatia in this tournament, maybe the nerves that are impacting Argentina, plus Argentina's inability to hold a lead against the Dutch. I think that was a pretty big concern. And I guess now I'll switch to Argentina and just really kind of go over what their lineup, path, all that sort of stuff is going to look like. Because ultimately they had a lead after an early penalty in that opener against Saudi Arabia, lost that one. And then really had a tough time with Mexico, got a late goal to really make a 2-0 scoreline, I think, look a lot worse than the 1-0 is going in. And then Poland didn't really have a lot to threaten them with. And then Australia are just a really awful soccer nation at this level. Such a surprise for them to even get through the group to face Argentina. So that was a pretty intense, not intense run. They had a very easy schedule so far, did Argentina. And then looking at their lineup in this matchup, which was against the Dutch, which I feel like the Netherlands had a lot more attacking ability, certainly more accomplished strikers up front. Not the same midfield or creativity in that midfield, but I think there were more concern about the Dutch than there was or there will be for Croatia, which might be a bad thing for Argentina and a good thing for Croatia, because they might leave themselves a lot more open. With that said, Argentina took a lead early from Nahuel Molina and then added on with Lionel Messi with his penalty, which I think was soft but deserved. And then they kind of fell apart. I mean, a goal from Wout Weghorst at 83rd minute, and then at 90 minutes plus 11. It's just one of those things where I feel like with the Dutch, they brought on some strikers. Messi made comments about it, how they weren't playing real football. They're just kicking the balls high, doing long balls, which, I mean, Wout Weghorst is perfect for that. It's a total Burnley offense. But I think that there's some flexibility or ability there for Croatia as well to kind of use the same type of strategy, though they have the midfielders to thread passes. I mean, Luka Modric, inside or outside his foot, can do anything he wants to with that thing. So I don't know that the long ball strategy is really going to be one that they use, but I mean, it's nice to know that Argentina has some chinks in the armor at this point, because there's problems with their defense. I think they played a back five against the Dutch. At least that's what Google's telling me right here. Lisandro Martinez Otamendi and Christian Romero in the back line, Nahuel Molina, the opening goal scorer, and then Acuna on the left, who I think is suspended. So that's at least one position they're going to have to change. Maybe Juan Foyth comes in, more of a center back, but has certainly played fullback for in a 4-man back line for Villarreal. And I think you would have probably known him from Tottenham. Gonzalo Montiel might come in as well for Acuna, Sevilla teammates. And of course, if he's not suspended, then my bad. But it's amazing. I forgot how many yellow cards there were in the match. But when I look at that is essentially is what I think is the weakest point of Argentina. Lionel Messi is obviously incredible. The scariest open play or set piece player in the game, and certainly that's remaining in this tournament. Julian Alvarez has been also a revelation for Manchester City, scoring a bunch of goals, and he's looked really good in this tournament. I don't know how strong he is without Messi or without playing on the best team in the world, that is Man City, but he's certainly a scary striker who at least believes in himself and certainly very confident at this point in the season because he's been scoring a ton of goals. In the midfield, I feel like it's another, not the strongest part. McAllister, who plays for Brighton in the English Premier League. I mean, he's a good player and certainly can find the back of the net, but I don't know that he's necessarily someone I'm very afraid of. Fernandez, the center midfielder, who seems like he's going to be going for a ton of money from Benfica, maybe in this January transfer window. They'll probably hold on to him at least for the rest of this year because the Champions League knockouts are to come. And then Rodrigo de Paul, who is a feisty character and certainly a good creator. But I don't know that there's really a lot in this midfield that should trouble or concern Croatia. It's essentially whoever can control the ball the most, I think, will have the most chances to advance here. And I wouldn't necessarily make Croatia that big of an underdog in the possession battle because of that strong midfield. From the bench, I mean, there's certainly a lot more options, I think, in the Argentinian side, especially for scoring goals. We still haven't, I don't think, seen Paulo Dybala just yet. Forgot he was even on the roster until I saw him like celebrating or losing his mind in one of those clashes on the sideline. And then, I mean, you're never going to run out of talent in Argentina. So I guess the question to me then is maybe on the health and the availability for the Croatian side, and make sure that everyone is fit, available, and can play. But I think this is a match that's going to be another grinder. I mean, I feel like we've gotten to this point in the tournament where each goal seems kind of fluky. You know, there's nothing that's really that beautiful and that creative. It might be who steps on whose foot in the box and generates a penalty or just something of that nature. So I'm still very interested in Croatia. I think that they getting 3/4 of a goal is probably my strongest lean in this one. I do lean to under as well, though I do think if Croatia can score here, that certainly opens up the match. I think at 1-0, it's 1-0 Argentina. I think it's a very good chance it ends that way. I do think if Croatia score, then you could see a lot different kind of time score lines out there, because I think Argentina will try to defend with a lead. Didn't go very well for them against the Netherlands, and that certainly is a concern when I don't love their defense. But I give Croatia a really good chance here. I don't know that I love the plus 220. Emi Martinez is so scary in a playoff, or excuse me, a penalty shootout. But certainly Livakovic has done nothing wrong to make me think that he can't do it either. And that is Tuesday's match. And I thought about potentially breaking this up into two podcasts, but I don't really think that's worth it. So hopefully everyone enjoys a little bit longer, lengthier version. But obviously there's only 2 matches to discuss. We can't really even go that late. But without further ado, we'll get to another one. We did 13 minutes there. So next is France and Morocco. And this is a much bigger spread between the two teams. To advance line, for instance, France is minus 425 favorite. If you back Morocco to continue the Cinderella run, they're plus 325 to make it to the final. The spread on this one is France minus 1 full goal. And then the over-under right now is 2.25, which feels like that's the number that all these totals have been this entire tournament, or at least anything of late. So Morocco, I mean, at +1, I was expecting a little bit higher, and I'll go through those teams in a second. But just, I guess, in terms of where the line has been moving, it hasn't really had a ton of movement just yet. I imagine a lot of money will come in on France because they are so strong. Everyone probably watched, if you care about soccer, you certainly watched the France-England match. So I'm not really sure what to expect in terms of changes from the status quo and market positions. I will say a lot of money seemed to flow in on England in the quarterfinal, right until kickoff, as they moved from a quarter goal underdog for most of the time since the match was out there until closing really at pick'em. And unfortunately that lost. So market didn't do great on that one. But in the Morocco match, there's a little bit of a buyback, I feel like, into backing Morocco. I mean, I'll get to them in a second, but in terms of, I guess, the way the money moved, there was some buyback, but ultimately Morocco, they did move to a 1-goal underdog, which is something I was looking for. Never really got it until like right before kickoff, and I was already on the under, so I felt like I didn't really want to make 2 bets on Morocco, just seeing if that glass slipper of Cinderella still fits. It did, and they're still here. But they've been a dead under team so far in this tournament, and the goal they scored against Portugal was a huge mistake from their goalkeeper. I hope that doesn't impair Diogo Costa's future as a goalkeeper, because I feel like that's one he's never going to forget. So looking at the Morocco lineup, though, and this is, I think, worth talking about, because they lost Aguerd to injury in the last round, and then Roman Saiz left at a time where I don't think he would have left if he could have stayed on the pitch, considering they had a lead and they were trying to hang on for dear life. I don't think there's a ton of center backs in the Moroccan on the Moroccan bench that are names I've ever even really heard of before. So that's not great and makes me feel a little bit concerned about them in this matchup, certainly against France, and only getting a goal. Goal of insurance is certainly big in this tournament, but you'll see everything thrown forward if Morocco are trailing, especially late, goalkeeper included. So there could be some really bad beat scenarios here coming out if you back Morocco +1. I don't know if I can trust them to score. That's my biggest concern. So Yassine Bono's have been great in this tournament. A big change from how he was playing for Sevilla. But then Achraf Hakimi should be there. El Yamik, who's a good defender and has played plenty for Real Valladolid, so I know of him. But then I don't really know who's going to play next to El Yamik in the back line. I guess you could have 2 possibilities with Saiz and also with Aguerd, and I also would think with 5 substitutions, very good chance that they're playing as they might even start some guys that are on the brink of not being able to play and kind of see what happens. I know that if you put them in the starting lineup and you substitute them before the match starts, they are not eligible for the match. So maybe you see something like that. That's probably a very interesting lineup to see what comes out. If they're Saiz nor Aguerd are even on it, then we know that they're not even close to being able to play. Because I imagine if they were anything in the neighborhood of being able to do it, even for a half, I feel like they probably would use them. Allah on the side, Allah, I believe, on the side has been left back, has been pretty good in this tournament. Sofian Amrabat, who I thought was really just a goal scorer for Fiorentina in Italy, he's been really good in this tournament. Amala and Onahi I do know from Angers, but they are a really poor, struggling team in France. So this entire performance has been incredible by Morocco so far. Hakim Ziyech up front is a good threat from set pieces and outside the box, but doesn't really seem to do too much. And the goals in this tournament have not really been flowing from Morocco. Yusuf Nassiri finally getting one, but that, like I said earlier, was a big mistake by the Portuguese goalkeeper. And then Sofiane Boufal, who's also a good creator, but is a good creator in the French league. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of they're facing France. They're coming up against France, and there's plenty of mistakes that we'll get to in a little bit about France. But unfortunately, the talent level and the gap between these 2 teams is significant. And I feel like the cover stretch that Morocco have been on is kind of a big deal, because to me, it seems like they are kind of underpriced here. And France is maybe a little cheaper than they should be. But I'll get into before I get into the French side. I think Morocco will play the same sort of style. They want to try to get you on a set piece or a cross in the box or something on a quick counterattack. They had one of their reserve strikers sent off. I don't see that to be a big impact on this matchup, but ultimately he's been run by himself at defenses a lot in this tournament. I expect that to be a similar scenario for Morocco. So if you're looking to back Morocco, You're certainly not expecting a lot of goals in this one because I think it's going to be really hard to see Morocco getting more than one. I think one seems like a maximum potentially. And then I guess the troubles with backing Morocco on that +1 Asian handicap or on that under 2.25, as I'm currently seeing, is you got to worry about those late goals and really how many France can put in. But now I'll go to the French lineup, and certainly this tournament has not really gone according to plan completely for France. Included a loss to Tunisia, and ultimately, I mean, a good win against Denmark, a win against a pretty poor Australian side. But then, I mean, the penalty that they surrendered to England, and then a second one, which luckily Harry Kane kicked, and it's still in the atmosphere. I think I saw a tweet about that. It was hilarious. But I think we've seen that the French defense has a lot of problems. Upamecano, who has played for Julian Nagelsmann in both Leipzig and also in München, has kind of had some falling outs with his manager. I think because he makes a lot of bad decisions. He's young, but he's been playing this tournament ever since Luca Hernandez got hurt, and I guess maybe also because Varane was injured too coming into it. He's certainly Upamecano is certainly the guy I'd be most concerned about making a big mistake. Next to him on the left side of the pitch, you have Theo Hernandez, who lives in the opponent's attacking third, and so that will leave a lot of space for Morocco to potentially run down that side. Ideally with Achraf Hakimi, who I don't think anyone can really catch him besides maybe Mbappe, and they play for the same team and same club team, which is amazing how PSG is such an all-star team. But I think that left side of the French defense is where Morocco can try to do something. I just think they're going to be playing so much defense, and I'm not sure that matters as much. And France might have a little bit more ability to kind of do whatever they look for. Raphael Varane on the right side is a pretty fast center back, and I think he will be in charge of sort of backing up Upamecano. But there's, I think, going to be a lot of 1v2s with one lone Moroccan striker trying to sprint past them, realizing he's not faster than both of them, and having to dribble the ball, and then other players trying to come to his salvation or to save him. And he'll probably be, I think it'd probably be Yusuf and Nasiri having to hold the ball and try to wait for support or I guess additional attacking threats from his side. And unfortunately, in that amount of time, France will probably recover, and that will limit the amount of chances that Morocco will have. On the right side, Jules Koundé, I think, is an awesome player. He's been playing right back. I think could play center back, but in this game, I think we'll be playing a lot more offense, similarly to Theo Hernandez. I think France are going to be a little more pragmatic than the South American teams, but ultimately they're going to be trying to go score as many goals as possible, because I think if they get to one, they feel really confident. I think if they get two, they feel like Morocco probably can't catch them. In the midfield, we have Tchouaméni with that silly foul in the box for the first penalty, though ultimately I felt like it was more to me, it was more Bukayo Saka just running into Tchouaméni, but I guess, I mean, soccer rules and penalty stuff really grinds my gears. Adrien Rabiot has been awesome in this tournament, finds himself in really good positions. It's kind of what I've said about him. I know Van Zach was saying on Twitter that he's a lot faster than I've probably ever noticed, but then in front of him is the most fast in the world, the biggest threat, scariest thing to bet against. Kylian Mbappe, probably the best thing to bet on. I just don't have a lot of opportunities to bet PSG unless they're, I guess, in Champions League on the road against one of the biggest clubs in the world. And so Mbappe is going to be a terror, but ultimately when he is best is when he is running at people and has space. And Morocco will not offer that, because they're going to be sitting in as deep as they possibly can. Might even put 11 men right inside their own 18-yard box, but you can't really survive that way for 97 or 107 minutes based on how much stoppage time we play. Antoine Griezmann has been a good track back defender. I think he's not really produced as many goals as he was expected to, and certainly that kind of is a commentary in his career at this point. Ousmane Dembele is terrifying on the ball, certainly when he plays for Barcelona, but also he's going to be cutting in from the right side using his left foot, as is Kylian Mbappe cutting in from the left side using his right foot. But the nice part is I expect there's going to be a lot of Moroccans there defending, and it probably might come down to Olivier Giroud up front trying to get loose and go up for a header and trying to head a ball into the net, because he's certainly got that. He's shown he can do it pretty much everywhere he's played, I feel like. At 6'4", that's a pretty nice height advantage, I think. And I would expect that lineup probably is maintained, assuming there's no suspensions here, which unfortunately it's hard to know because only two yellow cards being a suspension is like ridiculous in this competition, but certainly has removed any ability to pull people down, and that matters, I guess. So France, what they want to do here, score as many goals as possible. They're going to be as aggressive as they can. They want to win this early and right away. I think they're going to take risks and leave themselves with Upamecano, Varane, and Tchouaméni as three defenders back, probably against two or most likely one Moroccan attacker. I don't like Morocco's chances on those type of breaks. I do like the one goal of insurance because I expect this to be low scoring. But I do think there's a lot more value in that under 2.25 because you can lose 2-0. You would lose a Moroccan bet on their side, but would win the total. And so that does interest me quite a bit. Again, thanks for watching. Ultimate best bet is about to come up. I'll tell you what it is in 1 second. But thanks again for watching. If you're on Twitter right now, the real_G Warner, smash that follow button. We'll be trying to do more of these and potentially even more, like maybe even a daily podcast if there's enough interest for all the European soccer matches that happen seemingly every day of each week. I guess I should get my rest now because we're going to go back into it and everything's going to be crazy for a long period after this World Cup, weirdly in the middle. But if you're on Apple Podcasts, please give me 5 stars, write a review if you got some time. I'd really appreciate it. Same sort of story on Spotify. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. More content will be coming there the more subscriptions I get. And of course, check the promo code below if you're on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow the link. You can get a bonus and maybe get some free money to then win some more money. And so now it's time here. So I'll outline my leans for this matchup, and it is I like Croatia the side +1 +3/4 of a goal right now. I wouldn't really expect any money to come in on the underdogs until unless there's some crazy news story that comes out, but I wouldn't expect underdog money until close to game time. So you probably want to wait on the underdogs and also the unders. And I'll do just that. So I lean to Croatia and under in the first matchup, under 2 right now, but certainly would like 2.25 a lot more. As for Morocco, I lean to that +1, but I think I'm stronger to under 2.25 than I am to that +1. I just don't feel like Morocco are going to be able to score a goal here, and only getting one. I know it's a lot in a semifinal of the World Cup, but it does make me feel like that is very at risk for a backdoor cover from France. I guess front door cover would be the better way to describe it. Doesn't matter which door, it's not good for the underdog. And so my ultimate best bet for this episode, the only semifinal episode, unless I get a bunch of requests for something specifically on props or something like that, I'm going to give you the Morocco under 2.25. I think that's my favorite pick for this one. I just don't see Morocco with an avenue to goals. I think it's scary to go against the French offense, but they really have, to me, have missed Karim Benzema despite getting to the semifinal. And I feel like Kylian Mbappe and Ousmane Dembele won't have as much space to run into. I feel like Dembele might be a more likely goal scorer because he's used to facing sunken boxes, whereas Mbappe is more of a speed guy. Dembele seems to me more cut onto his left, cut from the right side onto his left and try to put something top corner in the top left corner of to the right hand side of the goalkeeper. That to me, I feel like could be the 1-0 result for France, which would win you an under bet and would push your side. So I guess if you want to go ride with me, it's been a really good run so far. Maybe both dogs and unders is a way to look. I feel like these are going to be very competitive matchups, and I think it's to be worth you're tuning in for sure, and maybe throwing some extra money that you just got for free on Bet Online in there on the under 2.25 between France and Morocco. Again, follow me on Twitter, the real_G Warner. Hit those subscribe, like buttons, 5-star reviews, anything you can. It means a lot. Appreciate everyone getting the name out there, my name out there, getting and really tuning in. Appreciate all the feedback, and I've been trying to work that into kind of what I'm putting together. Hopefully this is enough detail for you, and if you need more, let me know.